Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Thank you for joining me today. My name is Angela Gennari, and I am the host of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. Today, we are speaking with Carissa McIntyre, who is also known as Lady Mack Xo. Thank you so much for joining us, Carissa.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you. So we are going to be talking to Carissa, and just so you know, if you're at work, you may want to put your headphones in, and if you are at home with your significant other, you may want to turn the volume up. I'm going to give you a little bio about Carissa to let you know why. So author Carissa McIntyre, who is also known as Lady Mack Xo, is a self-published author from Ontario, Canada, who published her first novel while starting over after fleeing a domestic abuse relationship and finding herself homeless with her children. Carissa has written a series of erotica novels that are engaging, that are gripping, and that will surely add some fire to your relationship. So I'm just going to give you a heads up that this may not be safe for work. So we're going to have this conversation. So thank you so much, Carissa. I'm super excited to talk to you. I've been following your social media, and I've been following, what you do online, and that you are so engaging. And I love that you draw your audience into your life, and that you really kind of add some spark and some spice to our day. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. That was such a lovely little intro and about me. So thank you.
Absolutely. Nice. Absolutely. So tell me, what got you started in writing?
Well, writing in general is something I have always wanted to do, like my whole life. My earliest memories are literally of watching the Ninja Turtles as a kid.
Yeah.
And I loved because I'm a nerd.
Uh-huh.
And I loved April O'Neil because she was this journalist that get to follow the Ninja Turtles around and like report on their awesome stories. And I wanted to do that, but with and I had my youngest memories, I had a little notepad, and I wanted to write stories. And so I was going to go through college for journalism and maybe get involved in freelance writing, but I never had a lot of support as far as writing went throughout my early life. There was this stigma around me, around some of my loved ones, past partner, that, if I wasn't already Stephen King or R.L. Stein, who was what writing was a hobby.
Right. As if people don't start somewhere, right?
Right. So, but at the time, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I didn't have a lot of belief in myself. I wasn't always in the most healthiest of, place with my partner. And so I believed that. And so my writing was just kind of like a secret hidden hobby that I had. I dabbled in here and there, but my entire life since I was little, but never took it seriously, never shared it with anybody, and just saved all of my little stories and tucked them away.
Yeah. And so what made you want to go into the erotica segment? Because you have this book series called Cuffed. Is that right? So
yes,
Cuffed is your series, and you wrote the first one when you were leaving the abusive relationship, right?
Yeah. So it's funny, all of that kind of tied together. So in my early adulthood, I kind of hit a bit of a writer's block, and so I was trying different types of writing styles and thought I'd try my hand at a sexy scene, and I loved it. It just flowed, and so I kept writing them. And I wrote a lot of these short story eroticas and also a novel idea. And then I tucked them all away, and I had these boxes of short stories and sexy ideas, and this one story idea of a taboo kidnapping. So I have everything tucked away. And then in 2016, my long-term partner got injured on the job site.
Oh.
and he broke his arm in 3 places, and over the next 8 months or so developed an addiction to painkillers, and
Mm.
our life kind of fell apart.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
it got really bad, and I was planning on taking 4 children, not all mine, but because I was the sober, stable adult, I was planning on taking 4 children to the women's homeless shelter. I was about 9 grand in debt. We were being
Wow.
evicted. I didn't have a whole lot more than laundry baskets of stuff, of our clothes, and it was a really bad time. And as I am desperately trying to squirrel away our possessions in the last few months before we left, I came across my book, or my box of like manuscripts and short stories. And there was a mixture of two things kind of happened. One, I was fighting depression really bad. My whole
Mm.
life was falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
I needed something for me. I don't know. I just felt drawn to, like, maybe I'll just do some writing once in a while when the kids are in bed, and at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep, and I'll just pour my feelings into this thing that I'm
Yeah.
about. And at the same time, a friend of mine was making an adult styled coloring book. Back in like 2015, 16, those were becoming really popular.
Right, right.
Floral designs and mandalas, but she was using a self-publishing program on Amazon to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never realized that this could be an option, that I could just publish my own book, that I could just
Right.
be my own. I didn't have to be Stephen King or R.L. Stein. I could just be Carissa McIntyre and
Yeah.
publish a book. So I find this manuscript. It's about November 2016. At this point, I know by, after Christmas, early spring, like, we are going to be homeless. And
Wow.
where do you go with 4 kids? It's not, if it had been me myself, I might have been able to find a friend's couch to crash on, or a floor, but I got children who need stability, who need a safe place, who need food, who need clothing, who need stuff I can't provide.
Absolutely.
And the homeless shelter's looking like our only option. So over the course of a couple of weeks, at like 2 a.m. I start putting this book together, and I do all of the things myself, because I'm not in a position to, like, I don't even have a penny to my name.
Right.
So the very first draft of my very first book, which looks nothing like the one that's all over social media,
Yeah.
I literally photograph a friend of mine in my hallway against like a black background, so that I can like
Wow.
Photoshop it a bit.
Yeah.
And I put it into like a free cover editing program on Amazon. And I write the book and I edit it myself, and it's awful. Like, not the editing's awful. The formatting is awful. It's a great story. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
and my story itself is inspiring. So here I am. I'm now, it's February of 2017. And so for backstory, in April is when we went to the shelter.
Oh,
So
yeah.
February, for 2 months, I'm packing stuff up, and now I have this book, and I've hit publish on Amazon, but I can't even afford my own copy. Okay?
Right.
So I go on Facebook, and I'm like, hey guys, as most of you know, like, I'm like desolate and going to be homeless and moving out, and I'm going to the homeless shelter, and I don't know what to do, and I'm all alone with the kids. But guys, like, I wrote a book. So, because I already had a bit of a Facebook following. I had dabbled in direct sales and multi-level marketing for a while.
Yeah.
And my relationship falling apart had accidentally kind of become, like, it had become kind of public, like especially in our small town. So, and I didn't have the thousands and thousands of followers that I do now either, right? We're talking about like a couple hundred people, right? So I'm like, hey guys, as you know, like, and my friends were like, holy, like, I'll buy a copy of that. Like, of course,
Yeah.
I'll email you a copy. So, or I'll email you money, or PayPal you, or whatever. And so I just sent them the links, and eventually I sold enough to buy my own copy.
Wow.
So then we go to the shelter, and we're there for 7 weeks. And during the time that I'm there, I'm really like fueled now with this like repassion of, like, I had everything taken from me.
Yes.
And I'm broken, and I'm depressed, and I'm I'm lost and I'm feeling kind of like a failure. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I feel like a bad mom. I feel like a bad person. I feel like not realizing the bigger picture here, that I'm doing the amazing thing by leaving.
Yes.
I'm doing the right thing by getting security for my kids. I'm doing the best thing by getting us help and asking for help and taking the help, whatever humbling form it comes in. So I'm feeling really yucky, but I'm at the shelter and I'm applying everything. I'm taking my book and I'm like going to chapters and I'm going to government programs and and I'm saying, instead of taking welfare or social security, is there an employment program I can work in where I'll write another book? And they're like, we don't know, but we'll figure it out. So I applied my ass off and I wrote a second book while I was in the shelter. It took 7 weeks to get us out of there. I found a new place. And then I just kept going with it. It just like restarted my whole like life.
Wow.
I wrote 7 books since. I'm involved in multiple like charity organizations and fundraising for domestic abuse and awareness, and I'm launching new side projects and guided journals and teaching women to help themselves and love themselves and inspiring, and I'm taking all of that from a really shitty place. So there you go.
Wow. Gosh, I love it. I love it. And I always feel like the most broken places in our lives is when we find the most inspiration.
We do. And I've really learned too that some of the most inspirational and positive and amazing pivots in our life do not feel like that. They absolutely do not.
No.
And not to make like, the silver lining in every tragedy, but a lot of those big moments, they felt yucky. They didn't feel like I was doing the right thing. They felt like a bad point in my life. They felt like I was not, but then looking back, I'm like, wow, look at, so they don't always feel good in the beginning, but
they definitely do not. But it gives you that fire in you. When I had been married twice, and my second husband was very physically, verbally, like everything abusive, and it had just progressively gotten worse. And they always say, how do you get into something like that? You don't get into it when it's like that. And that's what people don't understand. It's like nobody walks into a relationship that's abusive. It progressively becomes that, to the point where you feel like you're stuck. And so it took a lot. Like it took he was threatening my life. He was I knew that if I didn't leave, he would kill me. And so it just became one of those things where, for myself and my son, I had to just figure it out. And fortunately, he was stupid enough to make some really dumb mistakes, and I was able to get him out of my house versus me having to leave. But I knew his greed would ultimately be the thing that sunk the ship. And so I was able to get him out, but at the same time, rebuilding my life after that, that's the part that people don't understand, how hard that is, because you've been manipulated, and your confidence is at the lowest point, and like, how do you start? And so you feel like, okay, that part of my life is I've got that out, but now what? And so that's
how do you learn the most basic things, from trusting yourself and what other people say, to learning to care properly for yourself and to make good choices moving forward. Like, it's literally everything.
Well, and people don't realize how much you punish yourself after that. It's like you punish yourself, you think you're not worthy of anything at that point, and because you've been manipulated and told you weren't. And so it becomes it's a cycle. And so pulling yourself out of that, I have a lot of respect for what you've done. But what I love about your book series and your story is that you didn't just pull yourself out, you gave other women an escape, other women this idea of, listen, this is where I have been, this is what I've done. And also read this book, escape from it's these erotica novels, it's this fantasy of leave the where you are mentally for a short period of time. If you feel like you can't endure this, go into a book. That's what I love about books, right? Is it gives you an escape.
And certain ones, like, so in this sense, like erotica and romance and fantasy, they really can really give you those little sparks of like passion for yourself and excitement and an escape that's like safe and comforting,
Right. And it builds your confidence. That's what I love about this type, of series, is that, you're giving women that power back, that power within them. This isn't power from the outside. This isn't outwardly success. This is internal power. And that's what I really love about it. So this is such a great way for women to be inspired, and, to also look at their own relationships and to say, am I getting what I need out of this? Am I staying for the wrong reasons? And so, your story is something that I think will resonate, because so many of us are in these relationships that are just not healthy, right? Yeah. Not healthy for us, not healthy for our kids. And finding the courage to leave is sometimes the hardest thing to do. And so, having that confidence, and even if it's something like, reading this book series to kind of give you that internal power, that internal, like, hey, I'm kind of a goddess, I'm kind of a badass, and
right.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's good. Like, I'm worth that. Like, yes. I went from, it's funny. I did this workshop for the Chamber of Commerce once in my city, and the whole concept behind it, there was a series of them, and they were like winning from failing. And I really said, like, when I published this first book too, like, I felt not only so unworthy of my own confidence and love and in life, but like, I really believed I would fail. And so it was just going to be like, see, y'all were right. I am a failure. I can't, when it didn't, that's what, like, it was doing things for myself and putting that passion into me again, that like made me realize I can do these things. I am worthy of these things. They came from my own self. They came from my own, like me, my failures. So learning that confidence again, and learning that you are worthy and you are a goddess and you can do those things. It's a good feeling, and when I first started talking about my story and my books and my journey, it kind of felt weird, right? Until the amount of women that came to me and they were like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for showing me that there is light at the end of this, that there is something better, that I am worthy, that I am deserving, that I can leave, that I can, or even just realizing, like, there are a lot of women that have come to me and said, like, there's nothing wrong with my relationship in that sense that, like, it was abusive or I needed to leave, but I'm not happy and I'm not getting what I want and I'm not asking for what I want and we're not sexually, like, sparked anymore. And there was all these things, and it's just because I didn't feel worthy or didn't think that I deserved to say, hey, my feelings, So that just kept me going. And the more that I put myself and my story and my business and what I do and what I've done out there, the more women just come back to me and they're like, thank you.
Getting that feedback is awesome.
I needed that. Like, I had to Google where I should go with my kids and what I should do. I needed, there's always those inspirational people that are out there and we see them, but I needed somebody really like me that was really real, raw, vulnerable, hadn't wasn't in some, like, wasn't a multi-millionaire or wasn't like super, like, it was just regular, and so I found other women like me that were like, man, I had to live in the back of my car to hide from my ex, and then I built this incredible business, and now look at me. Those were the people. So I want to be those people.
I have friends who've been in a situation like that where, they had to leave by any means necessary, and I think as women, we don't do things for ourselves, right? Like, we don't really leave for us, we leave for our kids, right? We get to the point where it's like, listen, now this is going to impact them so much that me staying out of being in my comfort zone or being afraid or being, not being brave, this is now hurting my kids. And the bravery comes from the kids, right? The bravery comes from wanting to save our kids, not from wanting to save ourselves.
I
mean, I know for me, when my ex started being abusive, and it was just to me, and he would say awful things to me all the time, and he would, everything was behind closed doors. And so I always told myself, I'm tough, I can handle it, like there's nothing he can say that can break me. But that's not true. Every single time he said it, he broke me. It's little breaks, little bit of a time, a little bit at a time.
The
But
same
it
thing
was,
for months.
yeah.
Then when it crosses over though, and you're not the only recipient of that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And when it became, focused at my son, resenting my son, that's when I was like, okay, now we've got a whole different, it's a different ballgame, and so
my kids are going to school terrified and crying, and we can't feed them. Never mind feeding me, I'll starve. But when I can't feed them, and they're scared, and they're getting abused, and they're like, that was it. Like, and that, and and like, and we can put ourselves down all we want. Well, why did you stay? Why did you stay? But the reality is, thank God we left.
Yeah.
Good on us for that,
Right. Because it's so hard to leave. I mean, your life is being threatened sometimes. You're being threatened with, well, if you leave, you'll have nothing. I mean, we, taking the sacrifice and leaving without knowing what's on the other side, it's like the devil versus the devil you don't. And so the people don't understand the leaving process and the amount of bravery and courage that it takes, and not knowing what's on the other side of that, because you've only been told that if you leave, you'll either die or fail, and so you're thinking, okay, die, fail, or endure this, and sometimes dying and failing sounds better. And so when it gets to that point, you're like, okay, no more, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. So, well, I applaud you for what you've done with the book series. So tell me about the book series, and tell me about the characters in the books.
Okay, so I have 7 books right now. 3 are one's a standalone novel. It's about 2 women mostly, and then I have 2 short story collections, which are really great for quick little reads, quick spicing things up. But my main series that is mostly known is the Cuffed series.
Okay.
It started off as that one-off book that I thought, I'd write and fail. And it was about a taboo kidnapping, about this girl who's kidnapped by 2 men, supposed to be quick and easy, couple hours, they make $1 million, she's on her way, everything goes wrong. And she ends up there in this kind of taboo love affair with the kidnapper's best friend. Not like a Stockholm syndrome thing, the kidnapper's best friend, and this is consensual, blah, blah, blah. But it's pretty hot. And I thought it would be a one-off novel, but the characters really came to life, and they wanted more, and they demanded a story. So it spiraled into them going on this crazy adventure and these robberies, and there's a lot of BDSM, and there's also a lot of, like, at near the end, a lot of women, like, she's very much empowered and not calling the shots, like she's like the boss of the relationship, but calling the shots of what she needs in her life and getting it.
Yeah.
I love it. And it became a 4-book series. I just published book 4 at the beginning of this year, February. And I really love it. It's definitely become the book series of mine. For now, I have a new series coming out. So
fantastic. That's so awesome. Okay, great. And then you just published a journal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So this ties more away from the smut and more into the inspirational part. There was a lot of times over the last few years that I have been asked to speak for certain organizations that have to do with the domestic abuse, or women starting over, or just people in general, like just taking a big leap in changing their life plan and their business and their life and all of these things. And so I had created a handful of worksheets for these workshops that were very like in-depth questionnaires and some charts and some activities, about finding deeper questions within yourself and why you react the way you do, and what you really need, and like some really, really in-depth stuff. The first time I actually launched this series of worksheets to a government organization that was meant to just be for like the 20 applicants. A bunch of social workers in like numerous buildings photocopied and took my worksheets and went off with them. And they were like, oh my God, yes, this is life changing. And I was like, are you serious? So I kept those worksheets, and I kept a bunch of other activities that really helped me over the last 5 years, between learning to love myself and learning to start over, and things that have helped keep me focused on myself and finding what's important. And I've shared little bits of them throughout time, and they've always come back with these amazing, like, oh my God, these are really, really inspiring. Like I need this activity. So finally, at the end of last year, I think the beginning of this year, I just kind of felt compelled to put all of them together into this little, like, 5 chapters. It's 120 pages, and it is filled with all of those different tools and tricks and tips that I've used to keep myself sane throughout the last 5 years. And it's been really well reviewed so far. And I'm talking with a couple of different organizations about getting it in there and using it as, in their shelters or in their whatever. So I'm really in love with this thing. I've poured my soul into this.
I love it.
I just launched pre-orders, and it will be live all over Amazon and in all the works by end of July. So it's called Learn to Fucking Love Yourself. And It's a guided journal, and I can't wait to get it out there. Thank you.
That is so amazing. Well, I know it's going to help so many people, and I think we need more resources like that. And just that, everybody has these journals where it kind of prompts you, like, today's a happy day because blah blah blah, and sometimes all your days aren't happy. And so sometimes, like, just having those prompts, I think, is good. Having that inspiration inside the journal is good. Like, it should really just be a personal piece of work, like it should be with your work.
I really wrote it. So every chapter is very much from my point of view and my mindset, like, so example, one chapter is all about, one part of a chapter is about, sitting with your feelings, and it was, it's very from my point of view, like, some of the shit I've been to, my feelings are valid. Like, I'm going to have bad days. Sometimes I'm pissed the fuck off. This day, I'm going to dedicate an hour to feeling these feels, because they are important and they're valid. And I'm going to be angry and mad, and I'm going to get it out of my system. And then I'm going to pick up my big girl panties and I'm going to move on.
That's right.
Because I can't talk. I'm not about toxic positivity. I've been through way too much to just be like, oh, it's all sunshine and roses, because it's not.
Right.
But I don't want to unpack my bags and live in misery. There is a middle ground. Yeah. So that's what I put out there. That your feelings are valid. And you know what? Like, you've been through shit. That's valid. That's okay. So feel it, sit with sorrow, and then let her go. Yeah.
And sometimes, sometimes it's okay to, every once in a while, I've had a really crap day, and I need 15 minutes in my car to cry, scream, whatever it is. And then I wipe my tears, get up, go in the house, and I'm fine. Like, now I've moved on, but you have to take those moments, and, ignoring them only builds up.
Ignoring them is what happens when you stub your toe and then you lose your shit for 20 minutes on everybody around you. That's because you finally are going to let go of all of those things you've been like, this is fine. No, it's not. So giving yourself those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if it's real bad, like during that whole pandemic period of like 2020, my youngest split her head open and was injured in an awful accident. My leg broke. My basement flooded. My best friend died. My oldest was in the ICU and came within a half an hour of losing their fucking life. I went through hell, never mind COVID. So when things started to ease, I was like, you know what? I need like 3 days to be an angry, sad, pissed off motherfucker.
I know.
I gave myself that. I was like, you know what? Self-care, being mad for 3 days, because I had way too much. I just had too much in me, because I didn't have, during that time, I did not have a safe and healthy way to let it out. So I took the time to let it out. Otherwise, I was going to be miserable. And I was going to stub my toe someday and then put my fist through the wall and have a mental breakdown. And that's not good for anybody. That's not good for anybody.
Oh, I
So
know.
that,
And when you're carrying it, it's amazing. One of the reasons that I had to leave, obviously the marriage was awful, but one of the things that really prompted me to do it was because I didn't like who I was, because I was carrying around so much anger and hurt and anxiety that I was snapping at people. I was angry. I had this like low level anger. It was awful.
yeah,
And it was this anger at myself. It was this resentment. And if you carry that with you, there's this book called The Body Keeps the Score.
yeah,
And what I've done is I've noticed, like, now I start noticing when things are happening, grinding my teeth, like, because I was grinding my teeth so much, my dentist was like, you're really going to have to wear a mouth guard. I'm like, not
I
doing that.
broke a tooth
Yeah.
grinding my teeth. Yeah, just
But
snapped
your
it.
body, your body will start, if you don't let things out, your body will start to just kind of internally, it's toxic for you. It's so toxic. If you're not letting these feelings out, if you're not getting what you need, if you're not expressing yourself properly and in a healthy way, your body will start to kind of battle inside of itself. And so grinding your teeth, coming, headaches all the time, internal issues, stomach upset. I mean, it's a constant battle internally if you're not letting it go externally. So yeah,
That's
just
a
really,
killer.
it's so hard. But yes, so but I love this journal because it's a healthy outlet. It's a healthy outlet for people to do what they need to do to release all of that, right? So to
Yeah,
release
yeah,
all of it, it's a way that they can get up in the morning or before they go to bed to just get it all out and then sleep peacefully.
yeah, yeah.
It's not in here anymore. It's not in your head. It is now on paper, and it just feels better.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it.
I love
So
that.
what inspires you?
What inspires me? A lot of things. Feeling good,
Yeah.
helping other people feel good, seeing seeing my kids happy,
Yeah.
um, being able to be happy. All those things really inspire me. Feeling feminine, feeling
Yeah.
sexy. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. So one of the questions that I ask all the time on this podcast, so, we give away our power all the time. And, I think I probably know the answer to this, but you probably gave away your power at some point, right? And then you step back into your power. So tell me about those two instances. And I think I can almost answer it from your story, but I want to hear it from you. When did you give away your power? And when did you step into your power? And what was the difference for you, after, in those moments?
Um, it took, so we go to the shelter, we get out of the shelter, okay?
Mhm.
And then we're about a year and a bit in, and on the
Yeah.
outside, life looks good,
Yeah.
okay? We're in a new place. I published like 3 books. Where the kids are in therapy, and I have a breakdown. I have a
Oh,
breakdown that is like almost like it took me out of the blue. Like I knew that like there was, but like, oh, and it was bad. It was like admit me to like doctor, like I'm not okay if I'm just, and I wasn't suicidal, but I was in the mindset that like if I just didn't exist, everybody would be better off.
wow.
And I suddenly realized that even though I had gotten us out of a really bad place, even though I had done the right things and I had been so focused on my business and my books and getting the kids settled and in therapy, I wasn't taking care of me. I wasn't
Wow.
putting my needs first, like at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that I had no idea who I was, what I wanted, what I was doing with my life. Like, yeah, I wanted to be an author and I wanted to write books, but like I wasn't okay. And
Yeah.
and suddenly I realized I was so focused on everything else and bending over backwards and saying yes to everything. I had no boundaries. I had no, and I'm still stepping into that power. But that was where everything for me really truly shifted. And this
Wow.
map of my life and who I thought I was and everything not only began to change, but I realized I was really in control of that. I could choose what I wanted and what boundaries to withhold and what to do with my life and how to take care of myself and what I needed. And I'm still stepping into that. I actually had a
Mm.
moment just had a moment the other day where I was talking to one of my best friends who's Native, and she's really struggled with a lot of the things that have happened over the last few years politically and with the government. And I realized, like, my social media in itself has become that same reflection of, like, don't say things, don't upset people, don't speak your mind, because you never know. And I'm still learning to set boundaries and say my truth and be who I am. But I am developing those tools and that self-confidence and that self-love to be more of myself and be more authentic. But it really took a really yucky and awakening of, even when I thought things were getting better, that, like, if you ignore yourself and your self-care and your needs and your wants, eventually it just
that
doesn't
so
give you a
true.
choice, and I could have stayed in that. I could have stayed in that depressing wallow of, like, oh, whatever, but I didn't. I wanted so much more for myself, and I want so much more for everyone else, that's, like, struggling with that.
Oh, that's powerful. I love it. Well, and I think that's so true, because when you're coming out of that and you're thinking, all I have to do is get to the next step and the next step and the next step, you're forgetting that you're one of those steps. Right. And so, that self-care.
The right here and now, and you right here and now is a step. We can't always have to be focused on the next. We have to be now, and we have to be now with ourselves.
Oh God, I love it. So tell me about what advice would you give to 18-year-old you?
Oh God. Write that. Right. Okay, right. First of all, right. Because writing and reading are two of the most important things, and being creative that I backburnered because nobody else liked it. Nobody thought it was going to pay the bills. Nobody thought it was a worthy habit. And even outside of that, I focused so much on who I thought other people wanted me to be, who I thought society wanted me to be. I was so focused on not myself. And that's who I should have been focused on it. And at 18, we don't have that mindset. But if I could talk to my 18-year-old self, it really would be, do what makes you happy, do what makes you passionate. Obviously, of course, we still have to pay the bills, but don't forget about you. Don't forget about your hobbies. Don't forget about what you need and what you want, because, oh gosh, you're so worth it. Not what a man says, not what your family says, not what a partner says. What you feel is worthy is what you are worthy of.
Oh, I love it. Yes, absolutely. Because I think we don't do that enough, do we?
We don't.
So where can people find your books?
LadyMackXo.com. They can find everything there. There are free stories. There are free blogs. There is sexual education. There is fun little games. There is 7 erotica novels. There is a sex game I made. There is my journal. There's everything. I got everything.
Awesome.
And they can find me on social media on pretty much everything. Lady Mack Xo or Carissa McIntyre.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. So one more question for you. So what do you wish more people knew?
I wish more people knew their bodies and their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And how their mind can make them feel sexual without their body feeling, necessarily. Yes, absolutely. I think that's so true. And I think more women need to be comfortable in their skin. Yes.
Totally agree.
Well, I applaud you for what you're doing, because I think it's so brave, and getting out there and publishing the series and, following it up and putting your story out there. I just can't applaud you enough, because more people need to see that you can take, you can take your passion and turn it into whatever you want it to be. You just have to have that fire, right? That fire in you. Well, and I think that what you're doing and putting your story out there is going to inspire a lot of people. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate how authentic you are, and, how completely transparent in all aspects, that you're out there and you're saying, this is why this matters. And this is why this internal power matters, and confidence. And so thank you for pursuing your passion, because I think you're really helping a lot of people.
That was really sweet. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me here. This was wonderful. This was really nice.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. Please check out the prettypowerfulpodcast.com and you can see all of Carissa's links there as well. If you can't remember the name of the website, please check it out on our website and you can link to her bio and to her books and please do support her. I think she's doing some great things. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.